mall is bustling with activity as usual. People shop, chat, and enjoy their day. Ethan, a regular visitor, walks into the mall wearing a red MAGA hat, a symbol of his political views. The mall manager, Sarah, notices him immediately. Displeased by the hat's bold political statement, she decides to take action. Sarah approaches Ethan and asks him to remove the hat, explaining that it violates the mall's dress code. Unaware of his identity, she assumes he's just another visitor. Ethan's initial reaction is one of surprise, but he complies without much resistance. However, the situation quickly escalates when Sarah insists he leave the premises for not complying with the rules. As Ethan reluctantly walks out, his thoughts are filled with confusion and anger, unsure of how to respond. He knows something isn't right, but his priorities shift when he suddenly receives a call that will change everything. As Ethan steps outside the mall, still processing the encounter with Sarah, he gets an unexpected call. It's from his lawyer, informing him that the deal to purchase the mall has finally gone through. Ethan is now the official owner of the mall. He hangs up, speechless, feeling a mix of disbelief and excitement. This is the culmination of months of negotiations and paperwork. The irony of the situation doesn't hit him immediately, but he can't shake the thought of Sarah kicking him out over something as trivial as a hat. He quickly realizes that he has the power to change things now, but he wonders what to do next. Should he confront Sarah, or bide his time and wait for the right moment? His plans for the mall were always to improve the customer experience, but now he's got a personal vendetta to settle. The power dynamics have shifted, and Ethan is in control. The next day, Ethan returns to the mall, this time in a suit and tie. As he walks through the corridors, he takes in the atmosphere with fresh eyes, noting areas for improvement. He notices Sarah at the front desk and decides it's time to introduce himself. She doesn't recognize him at first, but when he introduces himself as the new owner, Sarah's face goes pale. She tries to recover, but her nervousness is palpable. Ethan can't help but smile, knowing she has no idea what she's in for. Instead of confronting her immediately, he decides to observe the staff and the operations for the day, making mental notes of everything that needs to change. By mid-afternoon, Ethan calls Sarah into his office. She walks in, clearly uncomfortable, and takes a seat. The tension in the room is thick. Ethan wastes no time and explains what happened the day before, recounting how she kicked him out for wearing a MAGA hat. Sarah apologizes profusely, but Ethan isn't interested in an apology. He wants her to understand the gravity of her mistake. "You didn't just kick out a customer," he says coldly. "You kicked out the new owner of this mall." Sarah is stunned into silence. Ethan leans forward, telling her that while her actions were misguided, he's willing to let the situation slide, for now. However, he warns her that any further mistakes will not be so easily forgiven. Sarah spends the rest of the day in a daze. She can't shake off the embarrassment of her mistake. She thought she was doing her job by enforcing the dress code, but little did she know, the man she had kicked out was now her boss. She feels a deep sense of regret, questioning her own judgment and the assumptions she made about Ethan based on his appearance. That night, Sarah reflects on her actions. She knows she needs to make amends, but she's unsure how to approach Ethan. She wonders if he'll ever see her as competent again, or if her mistake has already cost her any chance of redemption. The uncertainty gnaws at her as she lies awake, dreading the next day. The next morning, Sarah arrives early, determined to make a positive impression. She has a plan to fix her mistake and show Ethan that she can be a reliable manager. She gathers the staff for a brief meeting where she announces the new changes that will be implemented in the mall's operations. These changes are designed to improve the customer experience, and Sarah insists that everyone must work together to make it happen. As Sarah walks through the mall later that day, she notices Ethan's presence more frequently. He's observing everything: the stores, the staff, the layout, and the overall atmosphere. She can't help but feel like he's judging her every move. Despite the tension, Sarah resolves to prove herself. As the days pass, Ethan begins to implement small changes around the mall. New signage, revamped promotions, and customer-friendly policies are just a few of the alterations he's already put into place. The mall's atmosphere seems to shift subtly, but Ethan can feel the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. Being a new owner means he has to balance improving the business with repairing the damage caused by his confrontation with Sarah. Meanwhile, Sarah tries her best to keep the operation smooth. Her staff can sense her unease, but she's determined to prove herself. She approaches Ethan with suggestions for a more formal approach to customer complaints and how to handle tenant relations. But Ethan, who's been dealing with his own set of challenges, barely acknowledges her input. He's still focused on the bigger picture. This leaves Sarah feeling frustrated, wondering if she'll ever be seen as more than just the woman who kicked out the new owner. Late one evening, Sarah encounters Ethan in the mall's parking lot. It's quiet, and only a few people are still around. Ethan is checking the perimeter of the mall, making sure the new security measures are being followed. Sarah, seeing an opportunity, approaches him again, hoping to discuss the future of the mall and her role in it. They exchange polite words, but the conversation quickly turns to an awkward silence. Sarah, nervous about the way things are going, finally asks, "Do you think you made the right decision in buying the mall?" Ethan raises an eyebrow, surprised by the question. He pauses for a moment before responding, "I think I made the right decision, but not the easiest one. This place needs a lot of work, and I'm willing to do what it takes." Sarah, now with a better understanding of Ethan's mindset, realizes that the new owner isn't as interested in maintaining the status quo as she had assumed. She resolves to start thinking beyond her own personal embarrassment and look for ways to align herself with Ethan's vision for the mall. As weeks go by, Ethan starts making larger, more noticeable changes to the mall. He's pushing for renovations and has started speaking with several new brands and tenants about leasing space. There's a noticeable buzz in the air. The mall, once a bit run down, now feels like it's on the brink of something new. However, the changes are beginning to affect Sarah in unexpected ways. As Ethan makes more decisions without consulting her, Sarah starts to feel her influence slipping away. She had always prided herself on her ability to manage the day-to-day operations of the mall, but now it seems like she's losing control. One afternoon, Sarah decides to approach Ethan with a bold idea. She suggests a rebranding campaign, a complete overhaul of the mall's image, targeting a younger, more affluent crowd. Ethan listens intently, genuinely interested. For the first time in a long while, Sarah feels like she's being taken seriously. He tells her to move forward with the idea, giving her a significant degree of responsibility. This marks the beginning of Sarah's redemption arc. She now has the opportunity to prove herself. Sarah dives headfirst into her new project, working late into the nights with her team to create a brand new marketing plan. She knows this is her moment to prove her worth, not just to Ethan, but to herself. As the weeks go by, she becomes increasingly consumed by the pressure. The stakes are high, and there's a lot riding on her success. She can't afford to fail. Meanwhile, Ethan is making waves in other areas of the mall. He's attracted high-profile tenants, and business is booming. But it's clear that Ethan is a man of action, not words. He doesn't have much time for Sarah's marketing project, nor does he seem to care as much about the little details of the mall's image. His focus is on the financial side, maximizing profits and minimizing expenses. Sarah grows increasingly frustrated with Ethan's lack of interest in her work, feeling that he only values hard numbers and quick results, not the brand identity she's trying to cultivate. Sarah has a breakthrough in her project. She lands a massive celebrity endorsement deal that could change the future of the mall's image. But when she presents the news to Ethan, he's less than impressed. He's happy about the deal, but he's more concerned with the logistics, how much money they'll make, how quickly they can capitalize on the opportunity. For the first time, Sarah snaps. She tells him that it's not just about the bottom line, it's about creating a long-term vision for the mall, something that will appeal to customers on an emotional level, not just financial. Ethan, surprised by her intensity, pauses before responding. "You're right," he says. "But at the end of the day, the numbers are what keep the lights on." The tension between them grows, but Sarah knows this is her last chance. She needs to prove that her vision can drive the mall's success, not just Ethan's numbers. But in order to do that, she must find a way to make him see her perspective without sacrificing her own beliefs. Sarah's new marketing plan is put to the test when the celebrity endorsement campaign goes live. The mall's social media explodes with activity, and the foot traffic starts to increase. But things don't go as smoothly as Sarah had hoped. The new crowd is younger, more demanding, and less tolerant of the mall's older, outdated amenities. Problems begin to surface: overcrowded parking lots, long lines at stores, and the mall's aging infrastructure starts showing signs of wear under the increased pressure. Sarah finds herself working overtime, trying to manage the expectations of both Ethan and the customers. She realizes that the changes she's making aren't just about rebranding. They're about transforming the entire mall experience, and that's a much bigger job than she had initially anticipated. Meanwhile, Ethan starts to notice the improvements, though his focus is still primarily on the financial growth. He begins to recognize that Sarah's vision might be more important than he thought, but he's unsure if he's ready to fully embrace it. As Sarah's marketing campaign gathers steam, the mall experiences its first real surge in popularity in years. However, the unexpected influx of younger shoppers brings with it a host of new challenges. The mall's outdated infrastructure begins to crack under the pressure. Parking spaces are scarce, certain stores can't keep up with demand, and the security team is overwhelmed. Sarah becomes the go-to person for complaints, constantly fielding calls and emails from tenants, customers, and even Ethan himself. Ethan's impatience begins to show. He's thrilled with the growing foot traffic, but the operational issues are starting to cause him stress. Sarah's attempts to manage the situation feel like a never-ending juggling act. While Ethan continues to push for more sales and expansion, Sarah realizes that the long-term sustainability of the mall is now her responsibility. She must find a way to balance growth with infrastructure improvements. Late one evening, after a long day of troubleshooting, Sarah and Ethan have a heated argument. Ethan accuses Sarah of being too focused on aesthetics and not enough on the practical side of things. "We're in the business of making money, not winning beauty contests," he snaps. Sarah, exhausted and frustrated, retorts, "And I'm in the business of making sure people want to shop here. If we don't invest in the customer experience, we're just a mall with stores and parking lots. No one will care." The argument escalates, and for the first time, Sarah realizes just how different their approaches to business really are. Ethan is all about results, but Sarah is about creating an environment where people feel connected to the mall, a place they want to visit, not just need to. Despite their differences, both understand that the other has valid points. But the growing tension leaves them both questioning whether they can continue working together without compromising their core values. Determined to prove herself, Sarah proposes a new initiative to Ethan, a partnership with local artists and startups to bring unique, high-quality events to the mall. She suggests pop-up shops, live art performances, and collaborations with local food vendors. Her idea is to create an experience that's unique to the community, something that can't be replicated by big-box malls or online stores. Ethan, still skeptical, agrees to give it a try, but with one condition: if the events fail to bring in new customers or generate significant revenue, Sarah will have to scale back the entire initiative. Sarah agrees, understanding the risk, but also recognizing the potential payoff. She works tirelessly to organize the first event, a local talent showcase featuring up-and-coming musicians, artists, and food vendors. The buzz around it builds, but Sarah knows that this event is a make-or-break moment for her vision. The day of the local talent showcase arrives, and Sarah is a bundle of nerves. She watches as the mall's main atrium fills with excited visitors, eager to explore the various installations, try local foods, and enjoy live performances. At first, things seem to be going smoothly. The atmosphere is lively, and people are enjoying the experience. But, as expected, operational challenges arise. The event is so popular that some of the vendors run out of stock early, and there are long lines at certain booths. Sarah is on the move, addressing complaints and trying to make sure everything is running smoothly. Amidst the chaos, Ethan walks through the crowd, observing the energy and the growing excitement. He watches as customers take selfies with artists, share their experiences on social media, and talk about the event to friends. When the event concludes, Ethan approaches Sarah, who's still catching her breath. "You were right," he admits. "The numbers were great, but the real value was in the atmosphere. People were engaged, and that's what's going to keep them coming back." The success of the local talent showcase marks a turning point in Sarah and Ethan's relationship. Ethan begins to see the importance of cultivating a deeper connection with customers. While he still keeps a close eye on the financials, he becomes more open to Sarah's ideas, recognizing that her vision is what's driving the long-term success of the mall. As Sarah gains more trust from Ethan, she starts to feel more confident in her role as the head of marketing. She begins pushing for more radical changes, including revamping the food court to feature more healthy, trendy options, and redesigning the mall's layout to create more open spaces for socializing. The two of them, despite their contrasting personalities and approaches, start working more collaboratively. Ethan, still the businessman, brings in new tenants and negotiates deals, while Sarah works on improving the customer experience and turning the mall into a community hub. They start to complement each other more effectively, though tensions still simmer under the surface. Just when things seem to be moving in the right direction, an unexpected setback hits. A new competitor, an upscale shopping complex just a few miles away, opens its doors, and it quickly starts drawing away some of the mall's loyal customers. The competitor offers similar high-end brands, but with a more polished, luxury feel. Ethan, worried about the potential loss in revenue, urges Sarah to focus more on promotional tactics to draw customers back. Sarah, however, sees the situation differently. "It's not just about luring people back with discounts," she argues. "We need to differentiate ourselves. We need to create a unique experience that those other malls can't replicate." She pushes for a more bold approach, introducing more experiential marketing, like interactive art installations, virtual reality zones, and a stronger focus on local culture. While Ethan is still hesitant, he sees the value in Sarah's ideas. They agree to try a new approach together, combining the best of both worlds, strong business initiatives and a unique customer experience. However, the pressure of competing with the new mall takes its toll, leading to some tough decisions ahead. The competition with the new mall intensifies. Ethan pushes harder for faster results, placing increasing pressure on Sarah to deliver a constant stream of new events, promotions, and experiences. Sarah feels like she's walking a tightrope, struggling to meet Ethan's demands while staying true to her vision for the mall. She finds herself sacrificing her creative ideas in order to keep up with the relentless pace of the business side of things. One evening, after another late meeting with Ethan, Sarah begins to doubt whether she can continue at this pace. She wonders if she's sacrificing too much of herself in the process. Ethan, noticing the strain in her demeanor, approaches her and asks how she's holding up. It's the first time he's truly checked in with her on a personal level. Sarah is taken aback by his concern. For the first time, she feels like Ethan sees her not just as an employee, but as a partner in this journey. In a powerful moment of clarity, Sarah decides to take control of the situation. She tells Ethan that she needs more autonomy in order to achieve the long-term vision she believes in. Ethan, seeing how much this means to her, agrees to give her more decision-making power in exchange for regular updates on the business metrics. It's a compromise that works for both of them. The two of them begin to communicate more openly, forging a stronger professional bond. With Sarah in the driver's seat, the mall's marketing and customer experience flourishes, and Ethan's focus on financial growth continues to pay off. The mall begins to thrive in a way it never has before, a testament to their collaboration. But as their relationship evolves, the question remains, will the balance they've found be enough to weather the challenges ahead? As Sarah's influence in the mall grows, she starts attracting more attention from major corporate brands. One day, A high-profile brand executive, Claire, visits the mall to scout potential locations for a flagship store. Sarah is excited by the prospect of securing such a prestigious tenant, but she quickly realizes that the deal comes with strings attached. Claire demands several changes to the mall's infrastructure, including a complete redesign of the entrance and a more upscale atmosphere in the food court. Sarah presents the proposal to Ethan, who sees the financial potential of the deal. He's eager to sign the contract, but Sarah isn't so sure. The changes would completely alter the vision she has for the mall, and she worries that it might alienate the local community they've worked so hard to cultivate. Ethan argues that it's a necessary step for the mall to remain competitive in a changing market. Torn between her loyalty to the vision they've built together and the pressure to meet the new demands, Sarah faces a difficult decision. She knows this deal could catapult the mall to new heights, but it could also come at the cost of the personal, community-focused atmosphere she's worked so hard to create. The pressure mounts as Sarah wrestles with the decision. She knows she can't ignore the benefits of securing a high-end brand like Claire's. It could bring in more customers, increase foot traffic, and position the mall as a premier destination. But at the same time, she worries it would lead to a loss of the mall's soul, a place for local businesses, artists, and the community. Ethan senses Sarah's internal conflict and confronts her one evening. "You don't have to make this decision alone, Sarah," he says. "We're partners in this. If you feel strongly about the direction we've been going in, I'll support you." Sarah feels a wave of relief. Ethan is finally starting to see her perspective. Together, they decide to meet Claire and renegotiate the terms of the deal. They agree that while the mall should grow, it shouldn't lose its identity. They push back on some of Claire's demands, suggesting a balance between high-end brands and local initiatives. To their surprise, Claire agrees to a more flexible arrangement. The deal is a success, and Sarah learns that compromising doesn't mean losing everything she believes in. It's about finding common ground. With the brand deal secured, Sarah now has the resources to push her vision further. She begins to create spaces for local artisans, indie brands, and community pop-up events, working hard to blend the upscale tenants with the mall's original, community-driven identity. The new high-end stores start to draw in a more affluent crowd, while the local initiatives help maintain the sense of inclusivity and accessibility. Sarah becomes a champion of this balanced approach, and Ethan, impressed by her success, starts to shift his focus toward long-term growth rather than short-term gains. He's beginning to see that creating a unique, holistic experience for shoppers is more sustainable than simply chasing the next big deal. As the mall thrives, Ethan and Sarah's working relationship grows stronger. They start sharing more ideas and collaborating on ways to improve every aspect of the business, from customer service to sustainability efforts. Ethan even begins to involve Sarah in some of the bigger financial decisions, trusting her insights more than ever before. Despite their professional success, the personal tension between Sarah and Ethan begins to grow. Both are so focused on the mall's transformation that they've neglected their personal lives. Ethan is married to a woman named Rebecca, and although their relationship has been strained for some time, Ethan has always kept his personal issues separate from his work. Sarah, on the other hand, has no romantic entanglements at all, choosing instead to pour her energy into her career. One evening, after a particularly long workday, Sarah catches Ethan looking at his phone. It's a message from Rebecca, and the tone is terse, indicating that their marriage is in trouble. Sarah doesn't pry, but it's clear that the cracks in Ethan's personal life are starting to show. As their professional collaboration deepens, Sarah begins to feel a shift in her own emotions. She's not sure when it happened, but she finds herself growing more and more attracted to Ethan. Her growing affection complicates things. She's aware of the delicate balance they've struck professionally, and the last thing she wants is to jeopardize that. One evening, while they're closing up the mall after a successful event, Sarah and Ethan share a quiet moment in the nearly empty atrium. It's been a long day, and both are exhausted, but there's a moment of vulnerability between them. Ethan begins to open up about his marriage, admitting that things haven't been good for a while, and that he feels trapped in an unhappy relationship. Sarah, her heart unexpectedly racing, listens quietly. She's always known that Ethan has had a tough personal life, but hearing it from him directly changes the dynamic. "I don't know what to do anymore," Ethan confesses. "I'm trying to make this mall work, but I can't seem to get my personal life in order." Sarah feels a mix of empathy and confusion. She wants to help him, but she's also unsure about the boundaries between their professional relationship and the personal feelings that are beginning to emerge. She steps forward and places a hand on his arm, offering a comforting but distant gesture. "You'll figure it out, Ethan. Just remember that you don't have to do it alone." But as the words leave her lips, Sarah realizes that she may not just be speaking out of friendship. There's something deeper in her heart, something she's tried to ignore for months. The line between professional and personal is becoming increasingly blurred. As the weeks pass, the tension between Sarah and Ethan continues to simmer just below the surface. Both are aware of the growing attraction between them, but neither wants to confront it. Ethan remains distracted by the unresolved issues in his marriage, while Sarah tries to focus on her work. One evening, after a business dinner with potential investors, the two of them find themselves alone in the mall's office. There's an air of unspoken tension as they stand facing each other. Sarah's heart races, and for a moment, it feels like time slows down. Ethan looks at her, his expression unreadable, and Sarah feels a powerful pull toward him. Before she can stop herself, Sarah steps closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ethan, But before she can finish, Ethan's phone rings, pulling him out of the moment. It's a call from his wife, and the tension evaporates almost instantly. Ethan answers the call, leaving Sarah standing there, her emotions in turmoil. The attraction is undeniable, but the timing couldn't be worse. As much as Sarah wants to act on her feelings, she knows that any relationship with Ethan could jeopardize everything they've built together at the mall. Despite their best efforts to ignore the chemistry between them, Ethan and Sarah find themselves in increasingly intimate situations. Late nights working together, brainstorming ideas over dinner, and occasional moments of personal connection continue to blur the lines between them. One night, after a particularly long day, they end up staying late to review the mall's financials and marketing strategies. Sarah, exhausted but determined, finally admits that she's struggling to juggle everything. Ethan, understanding her burden, offers to walk her to her car. As they step out into the cool evening air, they share a quiet, unspoken moment. Without warning, Ethan leans in and kisses her. It's a brief, unexpected kiss, but it's enough to send shockwaves through both of them. For a moment, neither of them knows what to say. The kiss is followed by a deep silence as they both try to process what's just happened. After a long pause, Ethan finally speaks. "I don't know what this means, Sarah, but I can't deny that I feel something for you." Sarah's heart races as she struggles to make sense of her emotions. She's been resisting this moment for so long, but now that it's happened, she can't ignore the truth any longer. But the consequences of crossing that line could be disastrous for both their professional and personal lives. The kiss between Ethan and Sarah lingers in both their minds, becoming an unspoken force that neither of them can ignore. In the days following, they continue to work closely together on the mall's operations, but the dynamic has shifted. Every glance exchanged, every conversation held in the office, feels charged with an energy they both try to suppress. Ethan, now more withdrawn, seems to be grappling with the emotional conflict of his feelings for Sarah and his commitment to his wife. He keeps his distance, but Sarah can sense the tension in him, as if he's carrying a burden he doesn't want to share. Sarah, too, feels the strain. Her professional identity is tied to the mall and her success there, but she can't help but feel conflicted about her growing feelings for Ethan. One afternoon, Sarah decides to confront the situation head-on. She calls Ethan into her office under the pretense of discussing the upcoming grand opening event. But as soon as he steps inside, she knows that they can no longer pretend everything is fine. "We need to talk," she says, her voice steady, but her heart racing. Ethan hesitates, but nods, sitting down across from her. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Finally, Sarah breaks the silence. "I can't keep doing this, Ethan. I can't keep pretending like things are normal when I know we're both feeling something more. But we can't let this affect the work we've put in here." Ethan's gaze softens, but the weight of his personal situation is clear in his eyes. "I know. But it's not that simple, Sarah. I have a family, a life I can't just abandon, but I also can't ignore what I feel." Sarah nods, her heart heavy. "We need to make a choice, whether we can put this aside for the sake of the mall, or if it's going to change everything." Ethan and Sarah's conversation leaves both of them reeling. The professional and personal stakes are higher than ever. The next few days are filled with a mix of cold professionalism and moments of quiet, shared tension. They continue to work together, but the underlying sense of uncertainty looms large over them both. Sarah feels torn. She wants to keep her integrity intact, and she doesn't want her personal feelings for Ethan to interfere with the vision they've created for the mall. She believes in the work they've done and doesn't want to risk it all over a fleeting moment of attraction. But at the same time, her feelings for Ethan are undeniable. Meanwhile, Ethan is caught between his duties as a husband and father, and his growing feelings for Sarah. The conflict is tearing him apart. Every time he looks at Sarah, he sees a reminder of everything he wishes he could have. A relationship based on mutual respect, shared goals, and honest feelings. But he can't ignore the life he's built with Rebecca, despite the cracks in their marriage. The decision weighs heavily on both of them. They realize they can't continue in this limbo indefinitely. After much soul-searching, Ethan finally makes a choice. He decides to confront his marriage and have an honest conversation with Rebecca. He can't keep living a lie, and he knows he owes it to both her and himself to figure out where their relationship stands. The day Ethan finally sits down with Rebecca is one of the hardest he's ever faced. He knows that no matter what happens, the conversation will change everything. Sarah has been a silent force in his thoughts for weeks, but his commitment to his family is still strong. He wants to be sure that whatever decision he makes, it is one that he can live with for the rest of his life. "Rebecca, we need to talk," Ethan begins, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know things haven't been right for a long time, and I've been fooling myself, thinking I could ignore it. But I can't anymore. I can't keep pretending that everything is okay when it's not." Rebecca, visibly shocked, takes a deep breath before responding. "What are you saying, Ethan?" "I'm saying that I need to be honest with myself," Ethan continues. "I've been unhappy. And it's not just because of work, it's everything. We've grown apart, and I don't know if we can fix it. I need to figure out what I really want." The conversation is long and emotional, but by the end of it, Rebecca agrees that they need some time apart. Ethan isn't sure what the future holds for their marriage, but he knows that he has to be true to himself. He leaves the conversation feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness, uncertain about the next chapter in his life. As Ethan begins to work through his personal issues, Sarah finds herself facing her own challenges. She's been giving everything to the mall, but her personal life has been left on the back burner. While Ethan deals with his family situation, Sarah throws herself into her work, pushing forward with the grand opening event that's quickly approaching. She has poured so much of herself into the mall's success, and now that it's on the verge of becoming a local institution, she can't afford to lose focus. But deep down, she knows that her connection with Ethan has changed the course of everything. As she reflects on her own feelings, Sarah realizes that she can't ignore her emotions forever. She starts to ask herself whether she's willing to risk everything, her professional reputation, the vision she's worked so hard to build, for a chance at something more with Ethan. But as Sarah stands in the middle of the mall's newly renovated atrium, taking in the bustling crowd, she feels a sense of fulfillment she hasn't experienced before. The community, the local businesses, the new brands. It's all coming together. She can't help but smile, proud of what they've achieved. But she knows that in the coming weeks, a choice will have to be made. The day of the grand opening arrives, and with it, a whirlwind of excitement, anxiety, and anticipation. The mall is buzzing with activity as shoppers flood in, drawn by the promises of exclusive deals, brand new stores, and the carefully curated events Sarah and Ethan have organized. For Sarah, the grand opening is the culmination of years of hard work. Every detail, from the layout of the stores to the atmosphere in the food court, has been meticulously planned. As she walks through the mall, checking on the different sections, she feels an overwhelming sense of pride. This is her vision realized, and it's even better than she imagined. But despite her excitement, her thoughts keep drifting back to Ethan. She hasn't seen him all morning, and her nerves start to fray. As the opening speeches begin, Ethan finally appears. He's dressed in a sharp suit, his expression one of quiet determination. He finds Sarah in the crowd, their eyes meeting for a brief moment before he steps closer. "We did it," he says, a soft smile on his lips. Sarah's heart skips a beat, but she can't shake the feeling that their future is still uncertain. This day is a victory for them all, but the real battle, between their professional ambitions and personal desires, is far from over. As the grand opening continues in full swing, the mall is alive with energy and excitement. Shoppers fill every corner, enjoying the new stores, food court options, and pop-up shops that Sarah has worked tirelessly to organize. Everything is perfect on the surface, but beneath the glossy exterior, Sarah can't shake the lingering thoughts about Ethan. As much as she tries to focus on the celebrations around her, the weight of their unspoken feelings presses heavily on her mind. Later in the evening, as the crowd begins to thin out and the event winds down, Sarah finds herself alone in the atrium, surveying the success of the day. Just as she's about to head back to her office, she bumps into Claire, the brand executive from the high-end store deal. Claire is smiling, her eyes glinting with approval as she surveys the mall's opening day success. "I have to say, Sarah, you've outdone yourself," Claire comments, handing her a glass of champagne. "I think we're going to be very happy here. You've got a winning formula, and I see this mall becoming the centerpiece of the entire city. I'm impressed." Sarah smiles graciously, but feels a pang of unease. As much as she's pleased with the day's success, she knows that this high-end partnership is only one part of the bigger puzzle. The mall has flourished, but she also understands that her relationship with Ethan is teetering on the edge. The personal complications between them are a looming shadow that might eventually threaten the very thing they've both worked so hard for. The days after the grand opening feel like a whirlwind. The mall's success brings more foot traffic than ever before, and the influx of customers is fueling the sense of achievement Sarah has been craving. She takes every opportunity to celebrate the small victories with the mall's staff, but her personal life remains a different story. Ethan has become more distant, his presence at the mall becoming increasingly rare as he continues to struggle with the fallout of his conversation with Rebecca. Sarah doesn't press him, but she can feel the growing distance between them. His demeanor has shifted, more withdrawn, more preoccupied, and she wonders if the tension between them is finally taking its toll. One evening, after a long day of meetings and site inspections, Sarah and Ethan find themselves alone in the mall's office. Sarah has just finished reviewing the latest sales figures and is trying to concentrate, but Ethan's presence distracts her. He's been quiet for the past few days, and it's clear that something is weighing on him. "You've been avoiding me," Sarah says, her voice soft but firm. She doesn't want to push him, but she needs clarity. "What's going on, Ethan?" Ethan hesitates for a moment before responding. "I've been dealing with a lot. I'm not sure where I stand with Rebecca, and I'm not sure where I stand with us." The unspoken words hang heavily in the air. Sarah's heart races. "I don't want to complicate things, but we can't keep ignoring the elephant in the room." Ethan runs a hand through his hair, frustration clear on his face. "I don't know what to do, Sarah. I'm not ready to end my marriage, but I can't stop thinking about you either." The silence that follows is heavy with the weight of unspoken decisions. Both of them know that something will have to give, but neither is ready to face the inevitable consequences. As the days stretch on, the tension between Sarah and Ethan becomes more palpable. The success of the mall can't drown out the growing complexities in their personal lives. Both of them continue to work side by side, trying to maintain professionalism, but the emotional strain of their unresolved feelings is beginning to affect their performance. One evening, after a particularly challenging board meeting, Sarah retreats to her office. She's exhausted and frustrated, not just with the workload but with the emotional roller coaster she's been riding. Ethan's absence has become more noticeable, and with each passing day, she feels the weight of his unresolved issues pulling them both further apart. That night, after another long day, Ethan shows up at her office. He's been avoiding her, but tonight something is different. His face is tired, worn, and serious. He walks in without saying a word and sits down in the chair across from Sarah. "I've made a decision," Ethan says, his voice steady, but tired. "I'm going to talk to Rebecca again. I can't keep going like this. I need closure. I can't keep living in limbo." Sarah nods, feeling a bittersweet mix of relief and sadness. She knows this is the right thing for Ethan, but she also knows that the outcome could change everything for their relationship. "I understand," Sarah says, her voice soft. "Whatever happens, we'll handle it. We've built something strong here with the mall, and we can't let anything jeopardize that." Ethan nods, but there's a sadness in his eyes. He knows that no matter how this conversation with Rebecca goes, nothing will ever be the same between him and Sarah again. The next few days pass in an uncomfortable haze of uncertainty. Ethan spends time at home, trying to work through his thoughts and prepare for the conversation he knows is coming. He still hasn't told Rebecca about his feelings for Sarah, but he knows he has to. He owes her honesty, and he owes himself clarity. That afternoon, he sits down with Rebecca at their home. The conversation is long and painful, filled with moments of silence and awkward pauses. Ethan admits that he hasn't been happy for a long time, and that his feelings for Sarah have complicated everything. He tries to explain that he's not sure what the future holds, but that he needs to figure out what he truly wants from life. Rebecca listens quietly, her face a mixture of shock, sadness, and resignation. "I've known for a while that something wasn't right," she says quietly, "but I never imagined it was because of another woman." Ethan's heart aches as he realizes how much pain he's caused. "I didn't want to hurt you, Rebecca, but I can't keep pretending anymore. I'm sorry." The conversation ends with no easy answers, but they both agree that they need space. They've reached a crossroads, and whatever comes next will be the result of hard, painful decisions. Ethan knows that his life is about to change, but he isn't sure how it will all turn out. After his conversation with Rebecca, Ethan returns to the mall, his mind clouded with confusion and uncertainty. He knows that he's made a big step, but he's not sure where to go from here. Sarah has been giving him space, but now she senses that the time for avoidance is over. The distance between them has stretched too far, and they need to talk. One evening, as Ethan walks through the mall to his office, Sarah approaches him. She's been watching him from a distance, waiting for the right moment to confront the elephant in the room. "I know it's been a tough week, Ethan," Sarah says quietly, her tone compassionate. "But I think we need to talk. About everything." Ethan stops in his tracks, his shoulders tense. "I'm ready," he says, his voice low but determined. They sit down in a quiet corner of the mall's lounge area, far from the hustle and bustle of the crowd. For the first time in weeks, they're able to speak openly and honestly, without any pretenses. Sarah listens as Ethan explains the pain of his marriage and his struggle to come to terms with his feelings for her. "I never wanted to put you in this position," Ethan says, his voice trembling slightly. but I can't keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not. I've been avoiding this moment for too long." Sarah's heart beats faster as she listens to his words. She's been waiting for this moment for what feels like an eternity. "Ethan, I care about you," she says softly. "I don't know what the future holds, but I think we need to take this one step at a time. Whatever happens, we need to be honest with each other." The conversation marks a turning point for them both. It's not the end of the journey, but it's a step toward finding clarity. Ethan and Sarah know that they're at a crossroads, and whatever happens next will define their relationship, both personally and professionally. After their heart-to-heart conversation, Ethan and Sarah both find a sense of uneasy peace. While the weight of their feelings for each other still lingers, they agree to put their personal emotions on hold, focusing instead on the future of the mall. The grand opening has been a success, and now the hard work of maintaining that success begins. However, the tension that has been simmering between them is far from gone. Sarah is still dealing with the emotional fallout from her growing feelings for Ethan, while Ethan is caught between his responsibilities at home and his desire to explore the potential of a relationship with Sarah. Both of them know that they can't go on like this forever. In the office, the atmosphere between them is noticeably strained, yet they manage to keep it professional. They continue working on new initiatives for the mall, expanding store offerings, and setting up community events. But when they meet to discuss a potential partnership with a new retailer, their conversations are brief, focused, and without much of the warmth they used to share. Ethan can't help but feel the weight of the choices he's made. His marriage with Rebecca is on the rocks, and while he still cares about her, the connection he feels with Sarah is undeniable. But he's afraid of what pursuing that connection could mean, both for his family and for his career. Meanwhile, Sarah, who has always been driven by her career, wonders if she's allowing her personal feelings to cloud her judgment. She keeps reminding herself that the mall has always come first. But as the weeks pass, the question of what comes next, both for her and for Ethan, remains unanswered. The tipping point comes unexpectedly. One evening, after another long and taxing day, Sarah and Ethan find themselves in the office late, finalizing a proposal for a new store opening. The atmosphere is quieter than usual, with most of the staff having already gone home. The flickering lights of the mall outside add to the feeling of isolation in the office. As Sarah puts the finishing touches on the document, she looks up to find Ethan watching her intently. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The tension between them is thick, palpable. Ethan steps closer to her desk, his expression unreadable. "Sarah, I can't do this anymore," he says, his voice low and filled with emotion. "I can't keep pretending like nothing's changed between us. It's not fair to either of us." Sarah feels her heart race. She knows exactly where this conversation is going, and despite her best efforts to avoid it, she can't deny that she feels the same way. "I know," she replies softly. "I've been trying to focus on the mall, to push everything else aside, but it's impossible. I don't want to ruin what we've built here, but I also can't ignore what I feel for you." The words hang in the air, and for a brief moment, Sarah feels as if everything she's worked for could come crashing down. She worries about how their relationship could affect the mall's future and the professional image they've both cultivated. Ethan reaches out, his hand brushing against hers. "What do we do now, Sarah? How do we move forward?" Before she can respond, Ethan leans in, and without thinking, their lips meet in a kiss that is both desperate and tender. It's the first time they've allowed themselves to truly give in to their feelings, and as they pull away, neither of them knows what happens next. But they both know that things will never be the same. The days following their kiss are filled with a sense of emotional turbulence. Ethan and Sarah both know that they can't just ignore what has happened. The kiss has opened a door between them that neither of them can close, but it also creates a new set of problems they're not sure how to handle. Ethan spends much of the next few days trying to put his thoughts in order, He realizes that he can't continue to live in a state of indecision, torn between his family and his feelings for Sarah. His conversation with Rebecca still weighs heavily on him, and he knows that he needs to take further steps to resolve his personal life. Meanwhile, Sarah struggles with guilt. She never wanted to hurt anyone, especially not Ethan's family. But the connection she feels with him is undeniable, and she can't just turn her feelings off. She's spent years building her career, and the last thing she wants is for her personal life to ruin that hard work. But now, with the lines between personal and professional so blurred, Sarah doesn't know how to move forward. The tension between them is palpable as they continue to work together on mall projects. Sarah avoids looking Ethan in the eye, unable to face the feelings she knows are still there. Ethan, on the other hand, becomes increasingly distant, throwing himself into work to avoid confronting the reality of their situation. Everything comes to a head when Sarah receives a phone call from an unexpected source. Rebecca. She's calm, but there's a tension in her voice. She's heard rumors about the growing closeness between Sarah and Ethan, and she wants to get the truth from Sarah herself. "Sarah, I know what's been going on between you and Ethan," Rebecca says, her voice steady but laced with hurt. "I just want to know if this is something you've been hiding from me, or if I'm just imagining things." Sarah is taken aback, not sure how to respond. She hadn't expected Rebecca to confront her directly. For a moment, she considers lying, but she knows that wouldn't be fair to anyone. "I'm sorry, Rebecca," Sarah finally says, her voice filled with regret. "I never intended for any of this to happen. But yes, there's been something between Ethan and me. It's complicated, and I don't know what to do." Rebecca's silence is deafening. Finally, she speaks again, her tone colder now. "I don't know what's worse, Sarah. That you'd betray my trust, or that you'd get involved with someone who isn't ready to make a real choice." The conversation leaves Sarah shaken, her heart heavy with guilt. She didn't want to hurt anyone, least of all Rebecca, but now that the truth is out, there's no going back. The aftermath of Rebecca's call is filled with a deep sense of turmoil. Sarah is left questioning everything, her choices, her integrity, her future. The last thing she wanted was to tear apart a family, but now that the truth is out in the open, there's no denying the consequences of their actions. Ethan is equally conflicted. The conversation with Rebecca, combined with the pressure from his own unresolved feelings, leaves him in a state of paralysis. He hasn't been able to speak to Sarah since Rebecca's call, and the distance between them only grows. As Sarah walks through the mall in the days that follow, she can't help but feel that everything she's worked for is beginning to unravel. The mall is thriving, but her personal life feels like a broken mirror, with sharp edges of guilt and regret cutting into her soul. She knows she has to make a decision, whether to continue down this path with Ethan, despite the damage it's causing, or to sever ties and put everything behind her. Either way, she can't keep living in limbo. It's time for both of them to face the truth about what they want. The days that follow the confrontation with Rebecca are some of the hardest Sarah has faced. She can't help but replay the conversation in her mind, wondering if there was a better way she could have handled things. She never wanted to hurt anyone, but the emotional weight of the situation is undeniable. As Sarah walks through the nearly empty mall one evening, she's approached by Ethan. His face is a mixture of guilt and determination. He's been avoiding her, and she knows it's because he doesn't want to confront the reality of their situation. "Sarah, we need to talk," Ethan says, his voice low and weary. Sarah nods, feeling the knot in her stomach tighten. She's been bracing herself for this moment. They walk to the quiet corner of the food court, away from the remaining mall-goers and staff. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The tension is palpable, and both of them are aware of how much is at stake. "I don't know how to make things right," Ethan begins. "I don't want to hurt Rebecca, but I can't deny what I feel for you. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to face." Sarah looks at him, her heart aching. "I don't want to hurt anyone, Ethan. I didn't ask for any of this. But now that it's out in the open, we have to make a choice. We can't keep pretending like everything is fine. I need to know what you want. What we want. Ethan takes a deep breath, his eyes locking with hers. I don't have all the answers, but I know I need to figure this out. I can't keep avoiding this forever. I have to make a decision. About Rebecca, about you, about everything. But I need time. Sarah nods, understanding the gravity of his words. Time is something we don't have. Whatever you decide, I need you to be honest with me. I can't live in this limbo anymore. As they part ways that night, both Sarah and Ethan feel the weight of the conversation. There's no easy way forward, and the truth is that no matter what choice Ethan makes, their professional lives and their personal lives will never be the same. The next few days are filled with uncertainty. Ethan spends most of his time at home, trying to figure out how to approach Rebecca again. He feels torn, not just because of the emotional mess he's created, but because he realizes that the future with Sarah isn't guaranteed. He doesn't want to lose her, but he also doesn't want to hurt Rebecca any further. Meanwhile, Sarah throws herself into work, attempting to distract herself from the emotional chaos that's unfolding. The mall is doing well, and she's focused on expanding the retail offerings and making the upcoming holiday season a success. But every moment she's alone, her mind returns to Ethan and the impossible choices he has to make. As the week passes, Ethan reaches out to Rebecca for one final conversation. This time, the tension is even more unbearable. They meet at a local cafe, and after a long, quiet pause, Ethan finally speaks. I've been thinking a lot about everything. About us, about Sarah, about what's next, Ethan says, his voice raw with emotion. I need to be honest with you, Rebecca. I don't think I can continue this marriage. I've been holding on to something that isn't there anymore, and it's not fair to either of us. Rebecca's face pales, but there's no anger in her expression. Instead, there's a quiet acceptance, as if she's known for a long time that this day would come. I knew, she says softly, tears welling in her eyes. I knew something was wrong, and I didn't want to admit it. But I'm glad you finally figured it out. You deserve to be happy, Ethan, even if it's not with me. The conversation is painful, but there's a sense of relief in the air. Ethan knows that the road ahead will be difficult, but he's finally taken the first step toward closure. With Ethan's decision made, things begin to shift. The divorce process is not easy, but both Ethan and Rebecca agree that it's time to move on. The emotional toll it takes on Ethan is obvious. He's exhausted, physically and mentally. But despite the heartache, he feels a sense of clarity he hasn't had in a long time. For Sarah, the news of Ethan's decision comes as both a relief and a burden. She's been waiting for him to make a choice. But now that he has, the reality of their situation hits her hard. She's not sure if she's ready to step into a relationship with him, especially now that the divorce process is in motion. As she sits in her office, looking out over the mall's bustling floor, Sarah wonders if she made the right choice. Has she pushed too hard for something that could cost her everything? Or is this a new chapter in both her personal and professional life? Ethan eventually reaches out to Sarah, wanting to meet and talk. They agree to meet after work, and as they sit down together, the tension between them is palpable. I've made my decision, Sarah, Ethan says quietly. I'm getting divorced. It's going to take some time, but I know it's the right thing to do. I just need you to know that I'm here for you, if you still want that. Sarah's heart beats faster as she processes his words. It's not the happily ever after she imagined, but it's a start. She knows that moving forward won't be easy, and there will be challenges, both in their relationship and in their professional lives. But for the first time in a long while, she feels like they're on the same page. I'm not sure where this will go, Ethan, she says, her voice steady but unsure. But I think we owe it to ourselves to find out, together. As the weeks pass, Sarah and Ethan navigate their new dynamic. The divorce proceedings continue, And while the tension around Ethan's personal life begins to settle, the ripple effects of his decisions still affect his relationship with Sarah. They grow closer, but there are still moments of hesitation, particularly on Sarah's part. She wants to be sure that Ethan is making the right choice, and that he's truly ready for the next chapter of his life. Meanwhile, Sarah's role at the mall becomes even more demanding. She is now overseeing the holiday campaign, coordinating with the marketing team, and managing new store partnerships. Her professional life is thriving, and she feels a sense of pride in the progress the mall has made under her leadership. But her personal life still feels like a delicate balancing act. One evening, as Sarah and Ethan walk through the mall together after a long day, they share a quiet moment. The mall is bustling with shoppers, the holiday lights casting a warm glow around them. Ethan turns to Sarah, his eyes filled with both gratitude and uncertainty. "I know this hasn't been easy for you," he says, his voice sincere, "but I want you to know that I'm all in. I'm committed to this, to you, and to whatever comes next." Sarah takes a deep breath, her heart pounding. She feels a surge of emotion, and for the first time in a long time, a sense of hope. "I'm willing to take the leap, Ethan, but we have to take it one step at a time." And so, with a sense of cautious optimism, they step forward, both into their uncertain future and into the promise of something new. The holiday season is in full swing, and the mall is busier than ever. The festive lights and decorations fill the space with a sense of excitement, but beneath the hustle and bustle, Sarah and Ethan are navigating a quieter, more personal journey. Their relationship has shifted from tentative to something more solid, but the challenges that come with building something new still loom large. For Sarah, the pressure is mounting. The success of the holiday campaign is critical, not only for the mall's profitability, but also for her career. She wants to make sure everything runs smoothly, but the emotional weight of her evolving relationship with Ethan is never far from her mind. She finds herself wondering if she's ready for all that this new chapter entails. Ethan, too, is grappling with his personal transition. The divorce proceedings are moving forward, but he's still trying to manage the emotional fallout. He's relieved to be out of a marriage that no longer felt right, but the guilt of what he's put Rebecca through continues to weigh on him. At the same time, he's cautiously optimistic about what the future holds with Sarah. One evening, after a particularly hectic day, Ethan invites Sarah to join him for a quiet dinner. They find a small, intimate restaurant away from the mall, a place where they can escape the constant buzz of work and focus solely on each other. Over the course of the evening, they share laughs, moments of vulnerability, and talk about their hopes for the future. "I've been thinking a lot about what we've been through," Sarah says, her voice soft but certain, "and about what I want for the future. I'm ready to take the next step, Ethan. With you." Ethan reaches across the table, his hand resting gently on hers. "I'm ready too. Let's take it slow, but let's also be honest with each other about what we want." As they sit together, savoring the warmth of the moment, Sarah realizes that for the first time in a long time, she feels like she's where she's supposed to be. As the months pass, the delicate balance between personal and professional life becomes increasingly challenging for both Sarah and Ethan. The mall continues to grow, and their work together intensifies as they plan for the next phase of expansion. But their relationship, though strong, isn't immune to the pressures that come with blending personal and professional worlds. Sarah finds herself grappling with feelings of burnout. She's been pouring everything into the mall's success, but it's starting to take a toll. There are days when she feels like she's losing herself in the process. She starts to question if she's truly doing it for the right reasons, or if she's simply trying to prove something to herself and everyone around her. Ethan, too, is struggling with the growing demands of both his personal and professional life. The divorce has left him feeling like a different person, but he's still processing the emotional fallout. He wants to be there for Sarah, but he's also dealing with his own emotions and trying to establish a new normal for himself. One evening, as they sit in Sarah's office after hours, Ethan looks at her with concern. "You're pushing yourself too hard, Sarah. You don't have to do it all on your own. Sarah sighs, rubbing her temples. I know, but I don't know how to stop. There's so much riding on this. I can't let anything slip. Ethan stands and walks over to her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. You don't have to carry it all. We're in this together, and I'm here to help, no matter what. For a moment, Sarah leans into his touch, grateful for his support. But the weight of her own expectations doesn't disappear easily. She knows that she needs to find a way to take a step back and prioritize her well-being, but it's easier said than done. As Sarah and Ethan continue to grow closer, their relationship begins to attract attention. The news of Ethan's divorce has spread, and rumors about his involvement with Sarah start to circulate among the mall's employees and within the local community. While they've kept their personal lives mostly private, it's clear that the public is starting to take notice. One afternoon, as Sarah walks through the mall, she overhears a conversation between two employees. Did you hear about Sarah and Ethan? One says. Apparently, they're more than just business partners now. Sarah's stomach twists at the gossip, but she does her best to keep her composure. She knows that it's only a matter of time before their relationship becomes public knowledge, and she's not sure how she feels about it. She's worked so hard to build her career and reputation, and she's afraid that being romantically involved with Ethan will undermine everything she's accomplished. Later that day, Ethan approaches her, sensing the tension in her. I heard the rumors, he says, his voice filled with concern. I know this is probably the last thing you need right now, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. We'll face this together. Sarah nods, appreciating his reassurance, but feeling conflicted. I just don't want to be judged. I've worked so hard to earn respect here, and now it feels like everything could be at risk. Ethan takes a deep breath. We can't control what people say, but we can control how we handle it. We'll be honest with those who matter and let the rest fall where it may. But no matter what happens, we have each other. Sarah feels a flicker of relief at his words. She knows that facing the scrutiny will be difficult, but with Ethan by her side, she feels a little more prepared for whatever comes next. The turning point comes unexpectedly, and it changes everything for Sarah and Ethan. The mall's board of directors schedules a meeting to discuss the future of the business, and as Sarah and Ethan prepare for it, they both feel a sense of unease. The pressure is mounting, not just from the increasing scrutiny of their personal lives, but also from the stakes of the upcoming business decisions. As they sit in the meeting, the board members express concerns about the direction the mall is heading. There's talk of expansion, new partnerships, and higher profits, but there's also an underlying sense of uncertainty. The board members want to see results, and they want to see them fast. After the meeting, Sarah and Ethan retreat to their office, both feeling the weight of the conversation. Sarah, in particular, is struck by the realization that the mall's future may not be as secure as they thought. The competition is fierce, and they may need to make drastic changes to stay ahead. We've worked so hard to get here, Sarah says, her voice quiet but resolute. But I'm starting to wonder if it's enough. Ethan looks at her, his eyes reflecting a similar concern. It's never enough if we're not adapting. We need to be bold, Sarah. Take risks, make decisions that scare us, but that will also secure our future. For the first time in a long while, Sarah feels a surge of determination. She knows that the road ahead will be difficult, but she's ready to face it head on. And with Ethan by her side, she feels like they can overcome any obstacle. The following weeks are a whirlwind of activity. Sarah and Ethan dive headfirst into planning for the future of the mall, trying to balance the increasingly demanding professional challenges with the complications of their personal lives. The pressure from the board to show immediate results weighs heavily on both of them, but it's clear that they're more determined than ever to prove themselves. Despite their dedication to the business, there's still the elephant in the room, their relationship. It's been several months since Ethan's divorce, and while they've grown closer, the strain of managing their professional and personal dynamics has taken a toll on them both. Sarah feels herself pulled in multiple directions. She's trying to keep the mall afloat, maintain a sense of professional authority, and manage her emotions surrounding her relationship with Ethan. One afternoon, as Sarah walks into the conference room for a meeting with the board, she's met with an unexpected visitor. Rebecca. Standing by the door, her arms crossed, Rebecca's presence is a shock. She's there to speak her mind, and Sarah can feel the tension building in the room. "Rebecca, what are you doing here?" Sarah asks, her voice tight with surprise. Rebecca looks directly at Sarah. "I came to talk. About everything. It's time we stop pretending nothing happened. Ethan's my ex-husband and you're his business partner. But I'm still a part of this." The room falls silent. Everyone is watching, unsure of how to proceed. Sarah, struggling to hold her composure, clears her throat and gestures for Rebecca to take a seat. "I think it's time we have an honest conversation," Sarah says, her voice steady, despite the rapid beating of her heart. "I know this is difficult for both of us, but we can't move forward with the tension hanging in the air." Rebecca nods, her expression somber. "I don't expect anything from either of you anymore, but I've been trying to figure out my own future. We all need to find closure, one way or another." The conversation that follows is raw and uncomfortably honest. Rebecca speaks of her pain, of the years she spent trying to hold things together with Ethan. Sarah shares her own feelings of uncertainty, not just about her personal life with Ethan, but about her role in the mall. By the end of the meeting, there's no clear resolution, but there's an understanding between the three of them. It's a start, one that, while difficult, allows them all to breathe a little easier. There's no magic fix, no perfect solution, but for the first time, they can look at each other without the weight of unspoken resentment. The fallout from the meeting with Rebecca takes longer to settle than any of them expected. While the tension between Sarah and Ethan eases somewhat, the strain of the past months remains. But as time passes, they start to see the silver lining. There's a sense of clarity now, a sense that maybe, just maybe, they can work through the difficult moments. Ethan has become more focused than ever on the mall's future. He's poured his energy into securing new deals and partnerships, bringing in potential investors to help elevate the mall to the next level. He's not just trying to recover from his divorce. He's working to build something new, something better. Sarah, on the other hand, has found a renewed sense of purpose. While the stress of running the mall hasn't dissipated, she's learned to embrace it. She's found herself more confident in her leadership role, more assertive in her decisions, and more willing to push past the boundaries that once held her back. The two of them start to meet regularly to brainstorm new ideas for the mall. They talk about new stores to bring in, customer experience improvements, and even renovations to make the mall a destination, rather than just a place to shop. For the first time in a long time, their personal and professional lives are starting to align. One evening, as they're walking through the nearly empty mall, Sarah turns to Ethan. "I think we're finally getting somewhere," she says, her voice filled with a sense of pride. Ethan smiles, his expression soft. "We're stronger together, Sarah. I believe in us, and I believe in what we're building here." For the first time in months, Sarah feels a sense of calm. It's not perfect, and there's still a long way to go, but the future feels promising. The road ahead is full of challenges, but with Ethan by her side, she knows they can face whatever comes next. As the mall continues to thrive under their leadership, Sarah and Ethan find themselves faced with a new, unexpected challenge. The competition in the retail space is fierce, and a new upscale mall is being developed just a few miles away. It's a game changer for the local market, and it threatens to draw away the customers that have kept their mall successful. The board calls an emergency meeting to discuss the issue, and Sarah and Ethan find themselves at the center of it. The pressure is mounting once again, but this time, they have the advantage of experience. They know they need to think outside the box, to come up with a plan that will not only keep the mall afloat, but set it apart from the competition. "We need to reinvent ourselves," Sarah says during the meeting. We can't just compete on price or convenience. We need to offer something different, something that can't be found anywhere else. Ethan nods in agreement. We've already built a strong community here, and we need to capitalize on that. Let's focus on creating experiences, not just sales. We can host events, bring in unique brands, and focus on creating a place people want to visit, not just shop. The room buzzes with energy as they start to brainstorm ideas. For the first time in a long while, Sarah and Ethan feel the spark of creativity. The competition is a challenge, but it's one they're ready to face head-on. With a renewed sense of purpose, they set their sights on the future, ready to transform their mall into something bigger and better than ever before. The days that follow the board meeting are filled with intense planning and strategy sessions. Sarah and Ethan work closely with the mall's marketing team to craft a campaign that will position the mall as a unique experience in the face of rising competition. They decide to launch a series of community-focused events, including art exhibits, local food festivals, and pop-up shops that showcase local artisans. As they work on executing the plan, they face several obstacles. There are logistical issues with scheduling, disagreements with vendors, and even pushback from some of the mall's longtime tenants, who are unsure about the new direction. But Sarah and Ethan refuse to back down. They've come too far to let setbacks derail their vision. We have to stay the course, Ethan reminds Sarah one evening as they review the event calendar. This is the future of the mall. We can't afford to play it safe anymore. Sarah nods, feeling the weight of his words. We're doing this, Ethan. Together. We're going to make it work. As the first event kicks off, a local food and craft market, it becomes clear that their efforts are paying off. The turnout is beyond expectations, with families and shoppers flocking to the mall for the unique experience. The buzz around the event spreads through social media, and soon, other local businesses begin reaching out to collaborate. For the first time in months, Sarah and Ethan feel a surge of optimism. They've turned the tide, and they're beginning to see the fruits of their labor. But they know that this is only the beginning, and there's still a long way to go before they can truly say they've secured their place in the market. As the community events continue to grow in popularity, Sarah and Ethan realize that they've struck a chord with the local population. The mall is becoming more than just a shopping center. It's becoming a hub for the community. But with success comes the need for expansion. They begin to discuss new ideas for how to grow the mall's footprint, not just in terms of size, but also in terms of the variety of experiences they can offer. We need to think about what people want, Sarah says one morning as they sip coffee in her office. We've built a strong foundation with these events, but we can't stop there. We need more attractions, more destinations within the mall itself. Ethan leans back in his chair, thinking it over. I agree. Maybe it's time to bring in something unconventional, like an entertainment complex, or maybe even a small indoor theme park, something that would draw families and tourists in and keep them coming back. Sarah's eyes light up at the idea. That's exactly what we need. We can create a space where people can come for entertainment, but stay for shopping. It's about building an entire experience, not just a place to buy things. They begin to work on a detailed plan for the expansion, researching potential vendors, entertainment partners, and designers. They also start talking to the board about the financial implications of such a large-scale project. The risk is significant, but both Sarah and Ethan are more determined than ever to make the mall a premier destination. In the meantime, Sarah is still managing the day-to-day operations and trying to keep everything running smoothly. Her workload is overwhelming, but she remains focused. The prospect of expansion fills her with excitement, but also anxiety. It's a huge gamble, but she knows it's the right step forward. As Sarah and Ethan work tirelessly on the mall's future, a new complication arises. The upscale mall across town, the one that has been threatening their success, is starting to ramp up its marketing efforts. The competition becomes fiercer, with the rival mall offering discounts, exclusive brands, and even hosting larger, more lavish events. Sarah watches the new developments unfold with a mixture of frustration and determination. She's proud of the progress they've made, but she can't help but feel the sting of the rivalry. The pressure to keep up is relentless, and it seems like the rival mall is always one step ahead. "We can't let them overshadow us," Sarah says one evening as she reviews the rival mall's latest promotional campaign. "We need to stay innovative, keep surprising people. If we just play catch-up, we'll lose our edge." Ethan agrees, but there's a noticeable strain in his voice. "We've already made some big strides. But I get it, Sarah. It feels like we're being constantly pushed, and it's hard to keep the momentum going." They both know that they need to push harder, but the mounting pressure is starting to take its toll. There are days when the challenges feel insurmountable, and both of them question whether they're on the right path, but they refuse to let the rival mall's tactics discourage them. Instead, they use it as motivation to raise the stakes even higher. "Let's make our events bigger, better," Sarah declares. "We need to give people an experience they can't get anywhere else. Let's bring in more celebrity appearances, partner with bigger brands, and take our campaigns global. It's time to go all in." Ethan nods. "I'm with you, Sarah. Let's show them what we're made of." The battle between the two malls is heating up, but Sarah and Ethan are more determined than ever to win. Just as Sarah and Ethan are starting to feel the strain of their rivalry with the competing mall, a new player enters the scene. A wealthy developer from a neighboring city, known for turning struggling businesses into thriving enterprises, expresses interest in purchasing the mall. The offer is both a blessing and a curse. The buyer, a charismatic man named Richard Lawson, promises to bring in new resources, modernize the space, and take the mall to new heights. But there's a catch. The mall would no longer be under Sarah and Ethan's control. Their vision would no longer drive the direction of the business. For Sarah, the decision is a difficult one. She's poured so much of herself into the mall, working countless hours to build it into what it is today. Giving up that control feels like an immense loss. But at the same time, the financial stability and the promise of resources that Lawson offers is tempting. The mall could expand faster, take on larger projects, and compete more effectively with the rival mall. Ethan is also conflicted. While he sees the benefits of the offer, he worries about losing the personal connection they've built with the community. He's become emotionally invested in the mall's success, and he's not sure if he's ready to sell out to a larger corporation. As they sit in Sarah's office discussing the proposal, the weight of the decision presses heavily on them both. "I don't know if I can let go of everything we've built," Sarah admits, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I also don't want us to be stuck fighting a losing battle." Ethan places a hand on her shoulder. "We've come so far, but maybe it's time to think about what's best for the future. If we sell, we may lose our control, but we could gain something even more important: security, and the chance to build something even bigger. It's a decision that will change the course of their lives and the future of the mall." The decision weighs on Sarah and Ethan for weeks, and each time they revisit the proposal, they find themselves torn. The financial security offered by Richard Lawson is appealing, but the thought of losing their independence is harder to swallow. The more they talk, the more they realize how much they've invested, not just financially, but emotionally, in the mall's success. Sarah spends late nights alone, running through the pros and cons of the sale in her mind. She talks to trusted friends, family, and even some of the mall's longtime tenants. Everyone has an opinion, but in the end, it's Sarah and Ethan who must make the final call. One afternoon, as they sit in the mall's food court, Ethan looks at Sarah with determination. "We've both been through a lot. We've built something here that has real potential. But if we sell, we may not have the same ability to make decisions, to steer the ship." Sarah nods. "I know, but maybe it's time to think bigger. We can take the resources we'd gain and build something even greater. I'm not ready to give up yet, but we need to figure out how to do this together." The decision is made. They turn down Lawson's offer, choosing to continue on their own path. They may not have the financial security the offer promised, but they're determined to make their vision a reality. With the decision made to keep the mall under their control, Sarah and Ethan go all in on the next phase of their plan. They work tirelessly to implement new ideas, focusing on creating a more immersive experience for their customers. New events are planned, unique stores are brought in, and a fresh marketing campaign is launched. They also make the decision to start investing in the mall's long-term infrastructure, renovating certain sections and introducing more green spaces to make the mall a place that people want to visit, not just shop. Their relationship, too, begins to grow stronger. After months of navigating the ups and downs, they find themselves more aligned than ever before. They share the same vision for the future, and together, they face the challenges head-on. "It's going to be a tough road," Sarah says as they finalize the expansion plan. "But we've made it this far, and I know we can keep pushing forward." Ethan smiles, his hand resting on hers. "Together, we can do anything." And for the first time in a long time, Sarah feels confident about the future. Months later, the mall stands as a testament to their hard work and perseverance. The expanded section is thriving, and the unique events they've introduced have set them apart from the competition. Sales are up, customer loyalty is stronger than ever, and the mall is no longer just a shopping destination. It's become an integral part of the community. Sarah and Ethan stand at the heart of the mall, watching as families, friends, and tourists enjoy everything the space has to offer. They've faced their fair share of obstacles, but they've come out stronger on the other side. "We did it," Sarah says, a sense of pride in her voice. Ethan looks at her, his eyes filled with admiration. "We did, and we're just getting started." Just as Sarah and Ethan begin to revel in their success, an unforeseen challenge arises. A series of environmental regulations comes into play, requiring the mall to make major changes to its infrastructure. A new law mandates stricter energy efficiency standards for large buildings, which means their newly expanded sections must undergo significant redesigns to comply. Sarah receives the news while in a meeting with the mall's architect. "This is going to set us back," she mutters under her breath as she reads the email detailing the changes. "It's going to cost us a lot of time and money to make these adjustments." Ethan, who's been by her side through thick and thin, can't help but feel the weight of the challenge. "We'll figure it out, Sarah. We've faced bigger problems before. But this is going to need careful planning." The news spreads quickly among the team, and Sarah gathers her department heads to discuss how they can meet the new regulations without compromising the quality of their expansion. The pressure mounts, as the project timeline will need to be adjusted, and there's the looming question of how they will finance these additional changes. They had thought the mall was finally set. Now, they're faced with the prospect of another round of delays and potential cost overruns. Despite the overwhelming nature of the new regulations, Sarah's resolve hardens. "We've been through a lot to get here. A little setback won't stop us," she tells Ethan. "Let's take this one step at a time and make sure we do it right." The changes required by the new environmental regulations aren't just about money and time. They challenge the very way the mall has been designed. The team has to rethink everything, from the layout of the newly expanded areas to the materials used in construction. It's a massive task, and Sarah and Ethan know they can't do it alone. Sarah spends hours in meetings with engineers and environmental consultants, brainstorming ideas for sustainable solutions. Ethan focuses on securing the funding needed for the redesign, reaching out to investors and lenders, and pitching the new, eco-friendly vision for the mall. Despite the difficulty of the situation, both of them remain hopeful. "We've always said that this mall is about more than just shopping," Ethan says one evening, after a particularly exhausting meeting. "This is about creating a place that lasts. If we're going to make it sustainable, we have to lead by example." Sarah agrees, but she can't shake the feeling that time is slipping away. The mall's reputation is at stake, and if the changes aren't implemented in a timely manner, it could derail everything they've worked for. "We can't afford to fail," Sarah says with determination. "We have to make this work, no matter what. We've come too far to let something like this stop us. Their teamwork becomes more vital than ever as they take on this challenge head first. Their unwavering commitment to their vision fuels their drive, and the mall slowly begins to take shape as an eco-friendly destination that will stand as a beacon of sustainability for years to come. While Sarah and Ethan focus on overcoming the environmental hurdles, something unexpected begins to happen. The community, which they have worked so hard to cultivate, starts rallying behind them. Local businesses begin to offer support, and customers become more vocal about their appreciation for the mall's efforts to make sustainability a priority. A local eco-friendly company offers to sponsor a new green space in the mall, while another company volunteers to provide energy-efficient lighting for the newly designed areas. Word of the mall's transformation spreads throughout the community, and soon enough, there's a growing sense of pride in what they're doing. One afternoon, as Sarah is walking through the newly redesigned sections of the mall, she notices a group of local business owners gathered in front of one of the entrances. They're discussing ways to make the mall even more environmentally conscious, offering ideas and resources that will help take the mall's green initiatives to the next level. Sarah smiles, realizing that the community is becoming an integral part of the mall's future. "This is exactly what we needed," she says to Ethan later that day. "We're not just creating a mall, we're building a movement, a place where everyone can feel like they belong, and a place that gives back to the environment." The sense of camaraderie and support continues to grow, and Sarah and Ethan begin to see that their commitment to sustainability isn't just about complying with regulations. It's about creating a mall that is both forward-thinking and deeply rooted in the values of the community. As the mall's redesign nears completion, Sarah and Ethan receive some much-needed good news. The changes have been a success, both in terms of sustainability and public reception. The mall's energy efficiency ratings have significantly improved, and the feedback from customers and local businesses has been overwhelmingly positive. In addition to the praise, the mall is attracting new tenants who are eager to be part of the eco-friendly initiative. National brands that focus on sustainability are lining up to secure spots in the mall, eager to partner with a location that aligns with their values. "We've done it," Ethan says with a smile, holding up a letter confirming the signing of a major new lease agreement with an environmentally conscious brand. "This is the moment we've been working toward." Sarah looks around, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. The mall is not just a shopping destination anymore. It's become a symbol of resilience, creativity, and community spirit. They've overcome the environmental challenges, strengthened their bonds with the local community, and created a sustainable space that people are excited to visit. But while Sarah is proud of what they've accomplished, she knows the work isn't done. This is just the beginning. "There's still more to do," Sarah says, determination in her voice. "We're just getting started." As Sarah and Ethan move forward, they begin to see the fruits of their labor paying off in ways they hadn't expected. The mall is bustling with new customers, a wider variety of stores, and an energy that had been missing before. The eco-friendly initiatives have not only attracted new tenants, but they've also built an even stronger connection with their community. It's no longer just a place to shop, it's a place to gather, to learn, and to support one another. The local businesses that once supported them through their challenges now see the mall as an essential part of the community's identity. The mall becomes a place where people can connect over shared values, whether it's through sustainable shopping, local events, or even volunteer opportunities. And for Sarah and Ethan, this newfound sense of community pride is the ultimate reward. They've built something lasting, not just for themselves, but for the entire city. "This," Sarah says one evening as she watches families enjoy the green spaces and the events happening around them, "is exactly what we envisioned. A place where people come together, share experiences, and make memories." Ethan smiles. "We've turned this mall into more than just a business. It's a legacy,